Welcome to Built on Air, a podcast and video series about all things Airtable. Today we speak with Edmund Amoye, the host of low-code centric podcast CodeLess. CodeLess explores how people use no-code and low-code solutions in their businesses and everyday lives in the form of excellent interviews conducted by Edmund himself. We explore how he became a figure in the no-code space, as well as discuss the meetup he started called I Want This to Exist, where members share products and solutions they would find invaluable, but, as the title suggests, do not yet seem to exist. For today's demo, Edmund shares a base he made to manage discussion topics for weekly meetups. With the aid of Airtable's simple forms capabilities, Edmund put together a base to collect routine entry from multiple members that makes every meeting just that much more streamlined.
This is the base, and what you can see in here is just a base with a bunch of fields and inputs already in the base. But let me start by explaining the base this way. So this is a form that our group uses, and it's for, like I said, it's for our weekly check-ins. And essentially, members come in, their names are already stored in the base. They put in their, they choose their name, the date, and then it just asks you a couple questions. What did you accomplish this week? What are your priorities for next week? What are you stuck on that, other people can help with? And then please recommend a product or a tool that you think is interesting. Give us the URL, describe it, and then tell us like what category it fits in, right? And so when we come back to the base now, having that context, it's probably a lot more easier to understand. So essentially, this base is just a bunch of entries from different members of the mastermind. And every week when you come in and you put in your entry, other members can come and review your entries, especially, the sections you're stuck on. So during the actual conversational session of the meetup, we're able to really like hone in and dive into the things that matter to each of our members. So let me see if I can show you a gallery of all the inputs here. Actually, no, I wanted to show you something else. So I wanted to show you the tools that we've all recommended, and you can see them right here at the end. So you see this column, product tool recommendation URL. So I think, gosh, we've lost count, but let me go all the way to the bottom. There's probably, there's about 300 products and tools that over time we've all recommended to each other. And the reason why this is important to us is the recommendation is a very strong indicator because it's qualified from other members of the group, but it also is a very good thing to have because all of us are building different things. And a lot of times someone else is working on something maybe a little similar to what you are, or recommends a tool that you actually need. So it's really helped all of us as a group, different makers, move at fascinating speed, but in the different directions in which we all want to go. So that's really cool for us.
And I'm imagining after you or your members go in and you look at people who are saying, oh, I'm stuck on XYZ, you have this other column that has all of these tools, and you might be able to just kind of scroll through and go, oh, this sounds like it might help with whatever that thing that person was stuck with. So
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, a good example of this is during one of the meetings when I had first indicated that I wanted to start a podcast. I had no experience making a podcast, but I knew I had to do this because I have to go through this process of intellectual breathing, learning something new as well as sharing it. So I had to do a podcast. I knew that. But it wasn't until one of the other members, KP, actually mentioned the script. And I don't even know how he came across it, but he mentioned it as, oh, this is a cool product. You all should check it out. And it was just perfect because once I found it, I literally abandoned my MVP that I was working on building a podcast. And I just started using the script exclusively. So that's a really, really good example of how tool recommendations can really help you move at, super speed in the direction you want to go in.
Great. I mean, it's always... I don't know. I've got not necessarily with tools quite yet, but I've gotten this with listening to podcasts and just finding a podcast somewhere in like episode 200 or something. And you almost feel a little bit let down because you're like, they've been going for 200 episodes and I'm just now learning about it. And I imagine it's a similar kind of like, how come no one told me about this excellent tool? Once you're halfway through designing something.
Yep, 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 yep. Hopefully, it shortened our journeys a little along the way, but I mean the improvements we've made as a group have just been amazing.
Well, I mean, that's the goal. So after users kind of submit and take a look at what other people have submitted during the meeting itself, do you guys have this up? Are you looking at it?
Yeah, so everyone has access to it. The form itself and the entries are also linked to our Slack group. So every week our meetup is on Friday. So early in the morning on Friday, every member gets a notification in Slack like, hey, go in and put in your update. And then, hey, once, if you've put in your update, here are all the like updates for the week. So every member has like the wherewithal to go in, open it, look through kind of like what people are, going to be talking about and where they need help. And yeah, some people have it up during the meeting because, it's actually a way for you to really compress what you want to say in a few key bullet points, and really allows you to express also what you need to other members during the meetup.
Yeah. And does this work as kind of like an agenda as well?
Yes, yes. So one of the cool ways we use it as an agenda is specifically once someone has filled it out, like we kind of use it as a way to like pass the pencil, like whoever, this idea of whoever's holding the pencil gets to speak. So we use it as a way to actually like go through the meetup and make sure like everyone gets a chance, but it almost sometimes determines the turn in which people go. So a lot of times you have people trying to fill the form as early as possible so they get to go as early as possible. So yeah, we do that. But also as an agenda, the big takeaway here is the section on what you're stuck on, like what you need help with. That really is a light, like it's like a bat signal to other members of the group in with specific instructions on how they can help you. And what that encourages is not only a deep dive during the meetup, but it also follows up with other members reaching out to members like privately and selectively to have their own conversations about these like issues that people have. So it not only helps us go through our meeting with a nice set agenda, but it encourages people to like go into like separate like one-off conversations to really dig deeper.
That sounds awesome. Just the more specific you can get in terms of the help that you're asking for and the help you're able to provide, the quicker you can arrive at a solution oftentimes. And so it sounds like you found a way to get people, I don't know how many on average are in a meeting, but to kind of expedite bringing all these people together from different areas and different areas of expertise to help each other in ways that are both efficient and actually beneficial.
Yeah, yeah. So our group right now in this, so I run two masterminds. I'm part of this mastermind 0 to 1, but then I run another mastermind called I Want This to Exist. And on average, we'll probably have in the 0 to 1 makers meetup, we probably have about maybe 30 members, could be a little more or less, but on average for each meeting, it's probably like maybe 10 or 12 people. And so this form kind of agenda setup, it helps us go through our meetings a little more efficiently, but then kind of saves the rich stuff for the one-off conversations.
So, how long have you been using this base or an iteration of this base?
That's a really good question. So actually, you know what? I'm just gonna scroll to the earliest entry when I actually started using it, because the base came to be, I think we started using it around, we built it this year, but I think the earliest like update I can see here is about November of 2019. That's what I can see here. But the base has, the 0 to 1 makers has been in existence since I think the middle of 2018. I only joined towards the end of 2019, and then I decided after being in the group for a while to build this. Probably was like maybe March. Actually, it was before March. Probably January. By January, we had built this. So it's been in existence for a while, and yeah, we use it to document a lot of the things that we're going through.
So if you kind of made this after people were already used to whatever the process was before, obviously we see now that it works and it works well, but was there anyone who was kind of like, I don't know if this is exactly what I want to do, or I don't want to fill out a form each time? Was this kind of like a smooth transition, or bumpier than you might have hoped?
I wouldn't say smooth or bumpy. The thing to realize, and this comes to when you're creating a product, period. Like, users prior to your product, users are operating in one way. And prior to this, we just had a meeting with a few people who were part of the meetup, and we still went through the same questions. What happened when this was created? Of course, it does create this feeling in some of the users, as in, how am I going to use this? And will this like help or actually like hurt the serendipitous conversations that we have during the meetup? And it's actually not, it's not done that. So it's not been a smooth versus like rocky transition. The main benefit of it, for the people that use it, has really been not the accountability of you documenting your progress, but then secondly, like this huge database of tools. One of the reasons this base was created was essentially because we had so many tools, but we didn't know how to share it. So the first iteration was the founder of the meetup, KP, literally created a base just with tools and shared a link. And then Ash, another member, and I had this other idea of, well, why don't we like expand it and like create, like put in more stuff that can be useful for the group. And that's where the idea of this weekly, check-in form came in. So yeah, it's neither been smooth or rough. It's just been helpful in documenting and encouraging, deeper relationships between the members.
Well, that's good to hear. Not every time someone comes up with like a new system, is it kind of adopted and kept up. One of the, I think, bigger issues when you build something like this, which is something that works and is really cool and easy to use, but if you're working with other people, a lot of times half the battle is like reminding people, oh yeah, fill out the form, and keeping up the habit of using the system that you've put in place. But you said around January, we are now, in fall. So seems like everything's going well.
Yeah, I would say so. It's going well. Yeah.
Well, great. Is this one of, I think, your more used bases in Airtable?
Definitely. I use it at least once a week, of course, because we have the meetup. Actually, my most used base in Airtable is actually, it's probably either my social media scheduler or the grocery shopping base that I created for my family.
Mine should be my meal planner, and it isn't. It just kind of sits there and looks pretty. But am I mistaken in thinking this is on the Airtable universe?
No, you're not. It is.
Okay.
I think I last published an iteration of it. I actually did it right after the Airtable conference that Chris Dancy hosted, because a couple people had asked, and I just posted it. And the other reason too is that I feel like there are lots of people looking for communities that they can belong to. And this is just a really great way of documenting what's happening in your community, but more importantly, encouraging those deeper connections between the members of the community. So anytime someone tells me, they're trying to do like some weekly type thing, especially a meetup, I always offer this as a way for them to, copy what we're doing, and hopefully it helps them. So posting it on the Airtable universe just felt like a sensible thing to do.
Great. Well, we will be sure to put the link to it in the description so everyone can make a copy of it and use it for themselves in their own kind of meetings and, stand-ups so that, they themselves can stay on track. Do you have any kind of tips for the first few sessions using something like this? It sounds like it makes sense and is pretty simple to kind of wrap your head around. But in terms of leading a meeting or participating in a meeting that uses a structure like this, do you have any tips for kind of sticking to this process?
Yeah. So the first tip I would give is, don't try to build the roads where people are going to walk. Like, watch where people walk and then build the roads in those paths. And the point there is that let the structure that already exists in your meeting be enhanced with this. Like, don't try to change it, with this. So an example of that is that the structure of the meeting in terms of the questions that are asked are always the same. Like, if you wake any one of our members up at 4 a.m. and you say, hey, 0 to 1 makers, like, what's the structure of the meeting? Those 4 questions, we always ask those questions, right? So this was created to follow in with that structure, not necessarily change it. So that's number one, is don't try to like change the structure. Like, really take whatever structure you have and augment it with something like this. The second is, you can't, again, in talking about a transition, you can't really try to force people to use it. The best you can do is integrate it into their regular workflows in a way that it's like boiling water. It would be so hard to mess it up. So an example here is the Airtable base is integrated with our Slack workspace, so everyone gets a reminder every so often. The next thing I'd love to do is probably integrated with probably like Twilio, where members can get text messages and probably even answer back into the base with a text message. So I'm really thinking, I would really encourage thinking more about, rather than trying to force people to take on a new habit, integrating this base into the habits people already have and meeting them where they are.
Wise words. As I was, saying earlier, half the battle is adoption. And then if you make it so it's as close as possible to your established routine, the more people are going to want to adopt it. And, there's going to be less confusion overall and whatnot. Um, I am curious to see if you're able to get, your text messages via Twilio figured out. Let me know if you do. Um, I think I might have an idea, but I don't know how to execute it, which is a shame. That happens to me all the time. I have like a billion ideas, and I'll be like, no idea if that's possible.
Okay, I'll tell you something right there. If you have an idea and you don't know like what to do with it, whether to execute it or set it free or give it away, you should definitely come to I Want This to Exist. That's
I was about
all.
to bring that up because it sounds like something that you would talk about there. So let's quickly talk a little bit about that, and then we'll post a little bit about it in the description below. Tell me a little bit about I Want This to Exist.
So I Want This to Exist. It's simply an exclusive meetup to share, validate, or set ideas free. So I particularly, from a very selfish point of view, started the meetup just because I needed to set some ideas free. It was just becoming such a problem to be working on something and then have another great idea. And I call those the old squirrel moments, like when you see a squirrel running in your yard and you say, oh, squirrel, then there's another squirrel there. And that's what the ideas were like for me. So we started this meetup essentially just to be able to share ideas amongst each other. Maybe, they get some validation. Someone else thinks it's a great idea and, tells you how you can extend it further. Or, you just like literally set the idea free, just let it go so that you can go work on something else. And we do it every Monday, just so that especially for me, what I figured out was that it really sets me up for the week. And that's what it is.
Super cool. I myself, like I said, sometimes I have a billion ideas and I have no idea how to do them. And the one thing that I hate the most is remembering that I had an idea, but not what that idea was. So if there were a place where people can just go like, hey, yeah, someone should make this. And then in their free time, if they have the time to make it, they might, start noodling on the idea and might actually be able to produce it. Sounds like another great venture of yours. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. We will have all the necessary links in the description below. We've talked about a couple different things of yours, CodeLess and your stand-ups. Is there anything else that you want to kind of plug or get out there that we can mention?
At this point, probably nothing else. If there's something I want people listening to take away from this, it's just the fact that that I'm dedicated to helping other people acquire leverage. And for me, what that means, right now, this moment, is building stages, or what you could say are ecosystems, for the entrepreneurs of this decade to play their best scenes, build businesses, start ventures. And so for me to explore this strategy using CodeLess, or I want this to exist, and the other projects I'm working on, it's actually a way for me to work on something that's personal, but hopefully actualize this idea of building stages for entrepreneurs of this decade. So that's all I want to plug is, I'm dedicated to helping others acquire leverage.
I mean, I think that's pretty evident. Thank you so much for coming on our podcast and giving us kind of a more deep dive of how this works and how it might help other people. And thank you for your own podcast that is sort of this inspirational, you can do this too kind of message brought out into the world.
Thank you, Camille. It was a pleasure talking with you. And just so everyone knows, we do have an episode of Camille on CodeLess coming up in season 2. So it's dope. I got to tell you.
Watch the episode, guys. That's all I can say. I don't know when that comes out. I'm not sure where this comes out. So depending on timelines, we'll have either a link to that episode here, or you'll have a link to this episode there.
That is right. Most probably. So CodeLess season 2 is airing by the end of this month. The playlist for the episodes haven't quite been decided. But if you want access to it earlier, you probably have to join the Orbit. And essentially, it's just a sign-up page for members of the community to actually get the exclusive episodes before the general public.
All right. Well, you heard it here, folks. Not sure if you heard it here first, because again, timelines, no idea when this comes out. Thank you so much for being here. I had a great time. I'm going to let you enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, Camille. Pleasure.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to give it a like or hit us up on social at BuiltOnAir. We always love to hear your comments and suggestions. And don't forget to subscribe to catch new episodes when they release. It helps us keep the podcast going.